here today with Sony Music. I'm Elijah from Pathway CTM, and we have Alex and Charlotte here today with us to uncover some authentic career stories and help you guys understand the music industry more broadly. Hope you enjoy. Thank you both for being here. So we'll start with some intros. So Alex, if you want to go first.
Sure. I'm Alex Mitchum. I work at Sony Music. I've been here for 6 years, I think. And I'm a senior commercial analyst, which is essentially just looking at the data and streaming for our artist.
Nice. And Charlotte?
Hi guys, I'm Charlotte. I have worked at Sony for 6 years as well. I work in the talent acquisition team, which is basically the recruitment team at Sony, and do a lot of hiring across different vacancies in the UK, but also internationally as well, and also support on our early careers.
Amazing. So I think first things first, we'll talk a bit about how you both got to where you are today. So like, how does your career journey build up from, let's say, school, university, wherever it did? Like, what was your pathway towards where you are now? Alex, if you want to go first. Yeah.
Sure. So I was born and raised in the West Midlands. Shout out Telford. Went to school there. Was a bit of a nerd in school. Like, I enjoyed the lessons. I enjoyed being with the teachers. My exams went well. And at the time, I was very much concentrating on the things I was good at, which at the time was maths. Less so now, but at the time I was really enjoying my maths. And I thought that I'd want to definitely have a career in that sort of sphere, or potentially something to do with business. Applied for a bunch of different universities and thankfully got the one that I wanted, which was Imperial College down in London. So moved down as a very much countryside boy into the big city, very happy. Read buses and museums and all that sort of stuff. Studied maths for 3 years, and then got to my, final year and was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know. All of my friends are getting jobs. Should I be getting a job? Everyone's becoming a consultant or a finance person, and that didn't quite feel like me. So actually decided to stay on for a 4th year and sort of delay that inevitable panic. But like a natural panic, I think. Everyone feels a bit uncertain. 4th year came along, did my master's, did my dissertation in music and maths, and maybe that was the first time I felt actually there's an intersection here. At the time it was making music using AI, which felt very new at the time, but now feels very current. And yeah, again, finished my 4th year and didn't really know what to do, had a bit of a panic, but realized actually my passion is in music. And I'm good at maths, so maybe there's some intersection there. Looked for jobs, loads of good career websites that have specific music industry jobs, and there was a role at Spotify as for a data scientist, which I fell in love with. I was like, this makes sense. I know Spotify, I use Spotify. This really would be a dream job. Didn't get it, didn't get an interview. Rejected at the first stage, and I was like, okay, I'll keep trying. So I tried for Apple Music and Shazam and all these different types of places, and was having no luck. One of my friends sent me the Sony Music internship and was like, oh, you should look into this. And at the time when you apply for the Sony internship, you couldn't apply for a specific role.
Okay.
You became an intern and then you were fitted as to where you're best fit. So I was ready to be a marketing person or a radio person if I was lucky enough to get the role. Unfortunately, during the application process, my CV got handed to my now boss, who called me to interview. So I went to interview with my boss, Charlotte, as well as doing the application for the internship process, and then eventually got the job that I'm in now and have continued to progress through there.
Yeah, nice. Thank you. And then Charlotte, what about you?
So I was a little bit different. So when I obviously was terrible at maths at school, not obviously, I was terrible at maths at school. So academically, I was a little bit unsure of where I was supposed to go. I was always into the arts at school. So I did dance, drama, media, and I also did like BTEC music in GCSE, because I was like, deep down, I know music is something in there. I didn't really know what it was, but I had to work it out. And when I was young, I used to DJ weddings at the age of like 14. So my dad used to help me. and take like these huge speakers that my granddad passed down to me. They were massive, unnecessary.
Yeah.
And my poor dad drove me around Leicester every other weekend to do a wedding. And it was so fun.
What were you playing?
Oh, the classics, Motown, like a whole range of stuff. And I come from a musical family. I come from a family that know their music, and I was surrounded by it from a very young age, and influences from my parents who were into old school, classic rock, but then I said like Motown and ska music, and then influence from my brother who used to blare like house music from his bedroom at all hours of the day. And it just kind of went in, and I learned a lot, and I used to spend a lot of time, on YouTube listening to music, like down a rabbit hole. And I think then it was kind of like, I love music, but I don't play an instrument, I don't sing. What do I do? So I did BTEC music at school, which was great. I kind of learned a little bit about how to use the like software on like Logic and Pro Tools and stuff. Didn't learn loads, but it kind of got me thinking about, okay, what else can I do? But even after that, I went to college and didn't do anything to do with music. I did dance and I did drama and media, which was fine. It didn't really help me in kind of like guiding me of where to go. So when it was time to choose what's next after A-level, there was like, oh, right, well, you've got to pick a uni now. And that was it. So I never really got told about the different pathways of where to go. And I found this course I went to a uni called BIM London, which is a music uni, and studied production. But back then when I went, it was called Tech Music School. And it changed name when I was there. But I was like, there's a course in music production. And I was like, wow, I've never really heard of that before. And to get in, you had to produce 3 tracks. So I was like, okay, no idea how to do that. I asked my friend's brother, who was a producer, to help me with these tracks, and he did. He taught me a lot about how to use the software, and I got in. And then I studied music production. So that was kind of like my first step into music, which was great fun. And again, learned a lot about live sound and engineering and mixing, and went into work at sorry, this is a very long-winded story. Went into work after uni. Again, I went to work in a studio, very small studio, with a guy who I'm still kind of connected with now and still do odd jobs for. And yeah, we had a great time. I worked there for about 9 months because it was part-time, and I was doing dog walking at the same time to pay the bills. And then I had to get what I thought was a real job. And then I went into recruitment. So I then kind of switched from music to recruitment because I thought it was going to get me where I needed to be able to do other projects on the side, and then just stayed in there in recruitment. And I think eventually felt lost because I'd lost that music part of my life. And then a role at Sony came up when I decided to get back into music. I'd actually done a part-time internship at a small indie label just before to try and get some experience to get into a label, because I thought music business, that's where I want to be. I loved production, but there are a lot of people that were better than me at production. So I thought I'll try my hand at the business side. And I had no idea that you could be a recruiter in the music industry. So when I got the phone call, I was like, sign me up.
Yeah, well.
And here I am, 6 years later.
I think it is interesting that there are so many roles within the label, within the music industry that don't necessarily reveal themselves immediately or aren't in the forefront of people's minds. I think there's a lot of things that maybe a bit more behind the scenes, a bit more bit less glamorous maybe,
Yeah.
but are still very much involved in the music and involved in different passions. Like I don't think the data role that I've got now is something that people typically consider when they think about record labels, or even within recruitment. There is such a breadth, I think, below that surface.
And what are the kind of different types of roles that you could just, list off now that people wouldn't just initially think of, like, oh, I know I want to be an artist, or I want to be part of the A&R team or something like that?
Oh, so many. And if you think about, we are a fairly large company. And if you think of any other company, there are so many things that you have to be in place in order for that company to work. So if you're interested in working with people, there's a HR team. If you're interested in working with numbers, there's a finance team. If you like building computers, there's an IT department. If you like, playlists, or I guess using Spotify or Apple Music, and you're interested in how that works, there's a team that will work with those partners to get great opportunities for our artists. There's people behind the scenes that are setting up all of the releases digitally as well, so they get distributed to the right places, so you can listen to them on the release day. So all of these little cogs that nobody thinks about, there's hundreds of people behind it all making it all happen.
When I can remember first starting, and I was just making a cup of tea to bring back to my desk, and I met someone for the first time, and I was like, "Hey, I'm Alex. What do you do?" They said their name's Rebecca, blah, blah, blah. She was like, "I'm in the sync team." And I'd never heard of a sync team, or really thought about it. But she was describing the idea that she was listening to the music that was going to end up on TV shows or on films or adverts. And she had to, see the scenes and understand what feeling it involved, what feeling it evoked, and then match that to the perfect track. And I was like, that's the coolest job that I've never heard of in my life.
Yeah. That's such a great example. Like when you're watching a TV show and you hear a piece of music, there's someone behind that making that happen. That's so cool. Well, there's a team behind it making it happen, pitching that song into the production, but also the other way around. The production team will come to Sony Music and say, we've got this scene, or we've got this show. Can you give us some options for music to back it? So yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah, I feel like though, despite there's a breadth of roles, it is seen as an industry of like who you know. So like, how could you say that like that can be something that we busted like as a myth that's kind of, we've seen that a lot of people feel that way and think that way when they're like, oh, what are the roles that I can do? Oh, I've tried to speak to this person, but it hasn't worked out. Like we have, obviously both of you shared your stories and they're not linear, but like, how can we bust that myth almost?
I mean, for me, I think it's a very passion-led industry. I don't think you end up in music on accident, in the sense of people really want to spend their lives surrounded by music, and we're very, very lucky to have our lives surrounded by music. So I think if you've got a passion, which may just be music, or it may be an intersection of music and maths for me, or it might be music and helping people, or music and technology, and all these sort of combinations, because so many things exist within the label, I think it can be a case of just displaying you've got a passion, how you've tried to pursue that passion, things you've done. We've just had a hiring process, and the number of people who have engaged in activities outside of what they're doing, whether that's college or school or their job, just to explore their love for music, I think is a really, incredible thing to see. And also in the idea of it's who you know, I think that's obviously like a very outdated sort of way of viewing it, but still there's like a special thing about relationships within the industry, and there are ways to make relationships within the industry that don't require you having a parent who works there, or a family friend or anything like that. There's so many great networking opportunities I think that I've been to, that there's people continue to go to, where you just get to meet like-minded people at various different levels, and that's a great way of building the relationships from the ground up in a very stress-free environment. I think a lot of people also think I need to be able to be very confident when I'm speaking, and I need to be able to make friends. But I think a lot of these initiatives are so welcoming and friendly, and people also are just people at the end of the day. We're music fans. People like to discuss what music they've listened to on the weekend, what concerts they've been to, what they're excited about next. Yeah. And I think that is a really great way of building those relationships without having to have already had them.
Yeah. And do you think that in a way has kind of helped progress accessibility in the industry?
For sure. Well? Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you can speak more to the accessibility.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even in the years that I've been working at Sony, things have developed and grown so much. I also think the power of social media has flipped it on its head. Like, you have access to people, but also content that tells you the information that you need to kind of grow and develop. And the amount of opportunities, job boards or opportunities pages there are now within not just music, but creative industries in general is really wonderful. And webinars, we run webinars for the internship program, and in order to share as much information as we possibly can about the program and the process and how you can best apply yourself, which is something we're passionate about at Sony. So, sharing that information, but we do a lot of outreach when it comes to those programs, and that outreach is to enable people from all over with different backgrounds to be able to see our opportunities, but also see who we are as a company and who we represent, and who works for us as well, which hopefully inspires people to either look at careers in music or apply for a job at Sony or whatever it might be. That's our aim, especially in talent acquisition. Yeah,
I feel like it's breaking down those barriers, thinking in like quite straightforward, like thinking about everything at face value. Like, as you know, your path, Alex, like, you merged two things together, like music, your passion, and then your like intelligence in maths. And like, I wanted to talk about the project you kind of did that you mentioned, your dissertation for your master's. Like, how did that come to, how did you think of doing that?
So I was very interested in AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning specifically. But I thought, okay, I've been here for 4 years now. I can do algebra really well. I can do all the maybe more traditional math side of stuff. How could I make this at least somewhat interesting? I'm going to have to care about it. I'm going to have to spend a lot of time doing it. I want it to be enjoyable, want it to be fun. And also wanted it to be kind of new and fresh. I think at the time, those sort of conversations weren't being had publicly about AI. It was very academic, very tech leaning. And ultimately, I just wanted to build something cool. I wanted to build something translatable that I could tell my parents about and be like, oh, I've just done this. And essentially what it was seeing if I could teach the code I was writing to understand different genres. So I'd feed it sheet music and it would interpret that in its own black box way and reproduce something that it thought matched that genre. So I spent a lot of time meeting up with my friends and being like, does this sound like jazz to you? Does this sound like rock to you? And they were like, no, not really. But it was definitely a stepping stone in that direction. I think by the end of when I'd completed all the programming and I'd got all the code written, I'd got music that didn't sound good, but you could tell what it was meant to be. And the professors, when I demonstrated, liked it. But interestingly, when I tried to get a supervisor, I was having some difficulties because maybe it just wasn't the most obvious of maths projects. To be clear, Imperial are very, very helpful, and I had a fantastic time there. It was just maybe translating that project wasn't the easiest to do for me. But I did have someone who helped out in the end, and very much was something that felt rewarding, and also something that was of interest to my boss, and at the time, her boss. And I talked about it I think it was my final interview. 50% of it was talking about that project, which actually hasn't got anything to do with what I do now. But I think it was just to demonstrate I've got a passion for this maths, data-y, codey intersection. And I was willing to explore it, which I think they really liked.
Yeah. And it's that, like, as you say, the intersection between the passion and what you're like naturally find easy to do. It's like empowering those passions. And that's obviously something we talk about at Pathway. When we're mentoring students, we want them to think about what they're already good at and how they can mix that in with things that potentially can be a career path for them. So maybe for you, Charlotte, do you think, when you see projects like someone like Alex's, you're like, wow, like, does that sort of help set you apart? Because obviously it is a competitive industry. Like, what kind of things can you be looking to do that's not just necessarily what you might be doing at school or university?
100%. Yeah. Like that would be an incredible kind of pointer towards like seeing someone who is made for the music business, but you don't necessarily have to always tie that into a school project. It could be something self-led, which really does show your passion. And I think that is something we talk about a lot, especially for our early careers, is when you are trying to get experience in music. A lot of people are like, well, how the hell am I going to get experience when there's no companies near me, or, I can't travel to London, or it's just so, competitive to get in. Think about ways that you can gain experience on your own. We look at projects that you have driven yourself as experience, essentially, and it proves how passionate you really are, because you've made that happen yourself. And those things can really vary. You can have a project where, some people might volunteer at community radio stations. They might start a blog. I don't know if that is, I feel like blogs are still relevant.
Yeah.
Definitely. And now obviously when you've got the, TikTok, a lot of people come to apply for Sony saying like, look, this is my TikTok page where I talk about all the music that I love and I'm passionate about. And that's how you kind of stay relevant in the industry. Or here's a music video I directed for a friend who is in a band, things like that, where you can make things happen yourself. And those ideas can be really broad. I think I've spoken to so many people over the last 6 years when they're kind of starting in their journey, and the ideas can really like vary. It could be running an event at a venue in your town, just building community in general, and tying that into what you enjoy doing and what you're good at. It might not necessarily be right for Alex to start a club night in his local town in the West Midlands, but for me that would be something that I would love to do, because I love working with people and I like project managing and seeing something, seeing people at the end of it. I'm sure you would probably be very good at that. Just no two things are the same for everyone is what I'm trying to say. So when you're thinking about ways in which you can dip your toe into the industry, just thinking about, what would be right for you and how it will help you get to where you want to be.
Also to that, the idea of like enjoying what you're doing is not only great to see in something that I think portrays really well in terms of the culture of the company, but also I just think fundamentally does help your job. The number of times that you need to have listened to the music that we're working on to be able to understand the wider picture. I mean, in fact, I'd argue every music that we work on, it's great to listen to because we understand what the artist was trying to do, who this appeals for. You need to have that love for, actually, I love music. I want to hear new stuff. And you find that when you speak to people that have been in the company for 4 or 5 years and you ask them, what type of music you listen to? It sounded obnoxious at the time, but I so get it now. The most obvious answer is actually I listen to a bit of everything, because you have to start enjoying everything to be able to appreciate the place you're in and appreciate the sort of art that we're getting
nice
and distributing. Yeah.
And it's important to listen to a bit of everything, but also be proud of a niche if you're a part of that as well. Say if you really like death metal music and you know everything about it, just, if you can talk passionately about it, that's amazing and really, really nice to hear for a recruiter, especially.
Yeah, for sure. And just off the back of that, what would you say if I was someone looking to potentially get an internship with Sony or like in the creative space more generally? What advice would you give?
First of all, there's no one route into the music industry. We have a great internship program, but that is not the only route into it. I think there's so many different ways. Like look at my route and Alex's route, did you get an internship or if it was a permanent role
Permanent role,
that? Things can take you in so many different directions, and it's about being open to those directions and, looking, first of all, I'm going to restart that. Research is your first port of call. And if you're at school now, if you can start your research in year 10, year 11, year 12, by the time you are ready to leave school or start a job, you're going to be, head and shoulders above your peers because you've started that process so early. And when I say research, it's, looking into the types of jobs that you could do, looking at the skills that you've got and how you can build on those and play to your strengths, and then start thinking about, stepping stones into where you want to be. Do you want to work for a big company? Do you want to start something yourself? Do you, is there anyone that you look up to in the industry? Are there ways that you can, if you don't know anyone in the industry, how are the ways that you can find those people to look up to? And I think it goes as simple as Googling music industry news, and so much will come up. Like there's lots of different publications, there's social media pages that I mentioned, and it can just, it's almost like a domino effect. Once you start, you just start to learn and grow and understand more. And I promise you will not understand the music industry even when you're in it.
Yes.
It changes every day. And when you are aware of that and you're interested in it and you're open to those changes, you will set yourself apart when it's time to become an intern. And then there's all the stuff about the applications and CVs and stuff like that, which I think is probably another conversation.
Yeah.
But I think first of all, start the research process and think about jobs that you want to do.
And I think on the idea of thinking about jobs you want to do, for me, I really like the phrase of shoot for the stars, because if you fall, you land on the clouds. Like, just put yourself out there and, try get that dream job, because sometimes even if it doesn't land, you might fall on the clouds. Like for me, while I got lucky to get the role that I had because someone passed over my CV, if I hadn't have put myself out there in the first place and was willing to take that risk, that wouldn't have happened. And also to Charlotte's point about the skills, and we've kind of touched on it earlier, while there are skills that are really easy to identify, for example, I'm good at maths or blah, 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 there are skills that we don't appreciate that we might have, even just problem solving. If maybe we're good at certain things in school, and maybe science, for example, doesn't pertain to the music industry as much as other subjects do, but you trying to work out a scientific problem is that problem solving skill, which is useful in a lot of roles in the job. Or maybe it's a case of, your skills with people and that sort of thing that aren't immediately obvious and aren't immediately writable on a CV, but hopefully you can demonstrate them by doing all the things that Charlotte's just mentioned.
Yeah, definitely. Like leveraging what you already have, honing in on what the strengths that you've already got, and then matching that with your passion for music.
I think that's the beautiful thing about school, is that when you are young, you're your blueprint, and you've got your kind of baseline of skills and personality as well. And I think, especially at school, I remember, thinking that certain things weren't good, certain personality traits or behaviors. If you were shy, it was considered bad, or introverted or more thoughtful or quiet. There's just so many different parts of being a person that can be drawn upon and expanded on, if that makes sense. And I think the music industry is so great for that, because it caters to all of those. I don't think, there's so many different types of roles that suit different types of people. It's not all just, extroverted people that can sing, which is something you assume when you're young. Sure. It's just not that way at all. And we want to peel back that curtain to show that you should be proud of who you are, and be very, I think that's a one big thing is, especially when recruiting, we want you to be your authentic self, whatever that might be. Don't pretend to be anybody else, and be proud of who you are. And that's one thing that I really love about the music industry.
Also, we're working with a variety of different artists. So we're working with shy artists, we're working with artists with different personality traits, and we need to have those personality traits within the workforce to be able to best serve our artists. And similarly for not only personality traits, but neurodivergence and race and ethnicity. And we need that sort of variety within the workplace to be able to do our jobs properly, I think.
Yeah. Would you say that, is there, being someone, for instance, from like a diverse background, is there like groups and things you can join at Sony to like kind of feel like, you found your people, or, if you feel a bit like, I don't know, I'm a bit hesitant to want to go there, like there's not going to be many people like me there. Like, is there something like that?
For sure. I actually head up our race, culture and ethnicity group called HUE, which stands for Helping Unite Everyone. And that focuses on, race and ethnicity, but we do lots of different things. That could be sort of panels talking about sort of race and ethnicity within the music industry. It might be social events where it's a case of just us getting together and celebrating being together. Educational programs, theatre trips, that sort of thing, all to sort of provide and elevate the cultural experience within Sony. But similarly, there's sound, which looks at neurodivergence, swim, which looks at women in music, freedom for LGBT, Q plus people within the workplace, the Parents Network.
Yeah.
Seems like there's quite a lot.
Yeah.
So much. And the great thing about it is that every year the kind of committee that's running everything come together to talk about new ideas and new things that we can do as a company to continue building that culture. And if someone, no matter if you're an intern or if you're the head of a label, like if you come to the table with an idea, then everyone jumps on board and tries to make it happen. There's a DJ society now. Someone wanted to be, to be able to play out to people, and everyone thought that was a great idea and made it happen. So it's not just kind of those little things, it's like pockets of culture within the wider business, which is really exciting.
Yeah, that's so nice to hear, and obviously for you guys to see. But kind of now looking a bit more back towards you guys, and what do you think from where you are now, what does your pathway like into the future look like?
It's a big question.
$1 billion question.
For me, I don't know, actually. I'm really, and I think that's fine. Like, I'm happy in not knowing. My team that I've got now, or I've always had actually, is really strong. We get on as people, we do really good work. And I'm very much feel like I've been given the room to bloom, flourish within our team. So for me, my future looks at how we can push this team to the next level, which we have done. We've hired a new starter, which Charlotte very kindly helped with. And we're just becoming a strong and strong team each day. I think as my experience within the industry grows, I'm understanding more about the music side of it as well as the data side of it. So I definitely think in the future there's space for me to get closer to the music than I am now, through strategy or through even just looking at A&Ring and things like that. I think there's definitely space to move. And I've seen a lot of people, a lot of colleagues, friends of mine have jumped around the music industry to find the thing that best meets their passion. And I think it's worth not underestimating how much knowledge and experience you get just from being in the building versus doing your actual job.
Definitely. I think for me, in terms of my future, I mean, when it comes to the day-to-day, it's hiring more people for the company, which is business as usual. I think going back to what I said earlier about the change in the industry, it's also staying on top of that change and continuing to grow and develop with the change. Recruiting people isn't the same as it was 5 years ago. because everyone's role is different. There are lots of new job titles. There's lots of new technology that needs to be, I guess, discovered, utilised, and grown with. And there's, always more network to kind of build for me. I guess the people that I hired as an intern 5 years ago are now managers in labels and even above. So the movement is continuing to grow, and we still work on the internship program. So just I think the sheer growth of network is how I see my role progressing, and being able to be closer to people always. That's kind of a around the houses answer. And also more projects. I think there's, as I progress in my role, there's ways to get involved in more things that, support the industry, support the company, and continue to make it a better place. That's just what I enjoy doing. So, yeah, whether that will help me progress, I don't know, and I don't care. It's just something I like to do.
Yeah. And what advice would you give someone that was potentially yourself, so like before you landed where you are now, like 6 years ago, however long it was for you both? Like, what would you be saying? Maybe you've just got that rejection from Spotify, like you mentioned, or you're struggling to find your path, like you're doing recruitment, and that's not exactly where you want to be. What would you be saying?
Do it yourself. Do everything. Don't wait for people to give you an opportunity. Make the opportunity happen yourself. I think that is something that I didn't learn until I was at Sony. I was very lucky to get the job that I'm in. It was, a very good timing sort of situation. I don't know where what I'd be doing if I didn't get the job then. But if I was to go back before, it would be, think about things that you can start doing, passion projects, freelance work, learn as much as you possibly can, rather than look for a employment job. Don't hang on to all of that, and take every opportunity, speak to as many people as you can, be bold, ask questions, ask for help as well.
Yeah, definitely.
For me, I think don't underestimate how important it is to do something that you love if you can. Like, I know we're in a very privileged position where we're able to be in a role in a company in an industry that we care about, but it does make your day-to-day so much more exciting when you care about the things that you're working on. So don't underestimate that, and don't give up. As Charlotte said, if you've had your first setback, that's one setback closer to getting the job that you actually want to get, and making use of all the tools that are available to you. I think now particularly there's so much more advice, podcasts, papers, blogs, websites, webinars, all those sorts of things that provide so much great information, connect people within the industry to people sitting in their bedrooms. That I realistically was not as much of a thing when I was in school. I can't really remember seeing stuff like this easily accessible online. Obviously, I'm sure there definitely was, but maybe to the point in which it is so close to home that you can jump online and find out so much information. Just make use of all the resources available.
Yeah. Definitely.
And just on the kind of rejection thing, resilience is something that you will need to have if you work in the music industry, whether that's if you work on a creative project and the artist says, no, I hate it. You need to be able to deal with that rejection. Or if it's applying for a job at one stage, and if you deal with that rejection well, and you maintain that relationship with the company, like that will show. So those kind of fundamental skills, resilience is definitely one that you can start to build now, and is underestimated, I think.
Yeah, what I've kind of summarized from speaking with you both now is like the path isn't going to be linear, and you've got to be resilient, but keep pursuing your passion, and you'll be able to land a role or be working in the music industry eventually.
Yeah. And also, even if your first role isn't the role that you plan to get, take it as a stepping stone. Like, you'll still learn things, meet people, enjoy yourself in that stepping stone. So definitely don't be afraid to not land the dream job straight away.
And on the resilience thing, you know, you're in control of your future. Don't let other people tell you what's right and what's wrong. Like when I wanted to do music at uni, I was told that I can't do that because I don't play an instrument. And if I'd listened to that advice, I wouldn't be here today. So, yeah.
Trust your gut.
Trust your gut, take matters into your own hands, and you'll get there at some point, even if it takes a while.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.